Today we're doing a deep dive into the life and mind of Elon Musk, pulling directly from a fascinating biography. Our mission is really to unpack the formative experiences, the key decisions, and those defining characteristics that have shaped, well, one of the most influential figures of our time.
Right. And we're going straight to the source text here, looking at specific details, anecdotes, direct quotes from the biography to really try and understand what drives him.
Exactly. From his childhood in South Africa right through to his huge ventures with SpaceX, Tesla, and now X, formerly Twitter.
You'll hear some surprising facts, I think, and hopefully gain a deeper understanding of the person behind all those headlines. Okay, let's unpack this. So as we delve into this biography, what were some of the most maybe surprising or pivotal moments from his early life? How did they set the stage for the person he became?
Well, the book immediately highlights how these early experiences fundamentally shaped his approach to risk and adversity. It describes South Africa in the 1980s as just incredibly violent.
Yeah.
There's this really vivid detail the author gives about 6-year-old Elon and his brother Kimball wading through a pool of blood next to a dead person.
Wow.
Yeah, leaving sticky sounds from blood on their sneakers. I mean, this kind of visceral exposure to extreme violence, it fundamentally wired him, the text suggests, with a high tolerance for chaos.
Need to see how it would.
And a profound comfort with risk, really. Traits that, became defining in his later high-stakes ventures.
That's an incredibly stark image. And wasn't there another traumatic experience around that age, something involving a dog?
Yes. Also at 6, his favorite German Shepherd attacked him, took a massive bite out of his back.
Ouch.
But what's truly striking, and the biography really emphasizes this, is his reaction in the emergency room.
What did he do?
He refused treatment. Flat out refused until he was promised the dog wouldn't be punished. He kept asking, "You're not going to kill him, are you?"
That's surprising. Showing that kind of empathy while in severe pain himself.
It really is. The text doesn't explicitly, track how that empathy evolved, but it does emphasize that these childhood traumas, including some severe bullying he experienced.
Right, the bullying comes up too.
Yes, they left lasting marks. The book states that whenever he was in a dark place or felt threatened later in life, it took him right back to the horrors of being bullied on the playground.
So a deep-seated drive maybe to overcome or even dominate threats.
That's what the text seems to imply, yeah. A need to control the situation.
And beyond these personal traumas, the sources hint at like a family trait for risk-taking, almost baked into his DNA.
Absolutely. The biography talks about his maternal grandfather, Joshua Haldeman. He's described as a daredevil adventurer.
Okay.
Studied chiropractic, then goes back to Moose Jaw, Saskatchewan, to break in horses and give adjustments just for food and lodging. So yeah, this attraction to high-risk, unconventional paths, it was clearly a family trait passed down.
And academically, it seems he wasn't always the brilliant student we might imagine. What was school like, according to the book?
Oh, far from it, at least at first. In 2nd grade, the text says he was tuning out so much that his parents were actually told, "We have reason to believe that Elon is retarded."
Gosh, that's harsh language.
It is. A teacher noted he spent most of his time sort of in a trance looking out the window, and when told to pay attention, he'd famously say, "The leaves are turning brown now."
So lost in his own world, even then.
Exactly. An early mind already deeply absorbed internally, often, disconnected from what was right in front of him.
And his parents' relationship. That also seems pretty impactful in his development based on the biography. What does it reveal about that dynamic?
Yeah, quite impactful. His mother, May, reported, according to the text, continuous verbal abuse from his father, Errol, calling her boring, stupid, and ugly. And Errol himself admitted, the book quotes him saying, "I had a very pretty wife, but there were always prettier, younger girls. I really loved May, but I screwed up." They divorced when Elon was 8, and after that, May really struggled financially. The text says she worked every day and also 4 nights a week, barely seeing her kids.
So a difficult, maybe unstable home environment, conflict, financial strain.
Definitely. All factors that would certainly contribute to a child's resilience, but also, their drive, perhaps.
Given this incredibly challenging background then, how did his entrepreneurial spirit start to emerge? What were some of those first signs?
Well, his time at Queen's University gives us a really early, clear example the biography highlights. He reverse engineered a business strategy game to win. Every single time. It wasn't just playing. It showed this early knack for deconstructing complex systems, finding an edge, a pattern you see again and again.
From rockets to social media, right?
Exactly.
And he clearly wasn't afraid to just go after opportunities, even if it meant, like, a cold call.
Not at all. The book mentions when Kimball joined him at Queens, they had this routine. They'd read the newspaper, pick the most interesting person, and Kimball would just cold call them for lunch.
No way. That's bold.
It really is. Shows an audacious, hands-on approach to networking, even back then.
Then we see him move to the University of Pennsylvania, Penn. And his future interests really start to crystallize there, don't they?
They do. His connection with Robin Wren at Penn was particularly significant, according to the text. Wren had won a physics Olympiad,
Okay.
and Musk apparently said Wren was the only person better than me at physics. They studied materials at extreme temperatures. Musk was really keen on visualizing their properties.
Visualizing.
Yeah, and Wren recalls Musk discussing how physics applied to building rockets. He kept talking about making a rocket that could go to Mars.
Even back then. Wow.
Yeah, though Wren apparently thought he was just fantasizing at the time. It really highlights how early and how deeply rooted those grand visions were.
So rockets were an early passion, and it sounds like electric cars were right there alongside them, based on the book.
Yes, absolutely. The biography describes Musk and Wren sitting on the campus lawn, Musk poring over academic papers on batteries.
Really getting into the details.
Deep into them. He noted California's mandate for 10% electric vehicles by 2003 and apparently stated, I want to go make that happen.
So the vision for these huge industries, it was formed remarkably early.
And with a real clear sense of purpose, it seems.
It also sounds like he found a way to balance this intense academic focus with a new social outlet at Penn.
He did. The text mentions he developed a taste for partying with a friend named Adeo Resi, and this was apparently quite transformative.
How so?
It helped him emerge from the lonely shell he'd been in as a kid, the book suggests. It wasn't just messing around, it's described as a third mode of relaxation for him.
Alongside the strategy games and encyclopedias.
Right. A surprising contrast to his earlier introverted nature, a period of maybe personal expansion.
Okay, so when he starts his first company, Zip2, he clearly has this strong vision, but the biography makes it sound like a pretty bumpy road. What were the challenges?
Incredibly rough, yeah. The brothers rented this tiny Palo Alto office, slept on futons, showered at the YMCA.
Classic startup story.
Totally. And primarily ate at Jack in the Box because it was cheap and open 24/7. The intensity was extreme, too.
So intense.
The book recounts Kimball actually biting Elon's hand during one of their rolling on the office floor fights over the name Zip2. Elon ended up in the emergency room.
You're kidding. A physical fight.
Apparently so. It highlights the raw, almost combative nature of their early commitment.
And that product vision itself, the biography says, led to significant internal conflict, a pattern we see later.
Indeed. Musk was deeply frustrated, the text explains, because Zip2 was becoming just an unbranded vendor to newspapers. He wanted to buy City.com, make it a direct consumer destination.
But the CEO had other plans.
Right. The CEO tried to merge with CitySearch. Musk, with Kimball's help, led a rebellion, basically, that scuttled the merger. He even demanded to be CEO again, but was instead removed as chair. It really foreshadows that recurring theme, his unyielding desire for control over strategy.
Okay, so then he moves on to X.com, which morphs into PayPal. And the narrative here suggests a really conflicted relationship with traditional success, more mission-driven.
Yeah, the book really digs into this. It talks about how celebrity was kind of enticing for someone who, grew up with no friends, quote unquote.
Right.
Yet he made this striking choice. He said he'd put almost all of his winnings, his money, back to a new game rather than, say, buying a Bahamian island.
So it wasn't about just getting rich.
It suggests not. It speaks to that mission-driven mindset where money was a tool, a means to fund the next grand challenge, not the end goal itself.
And his personal life at this time, the biography suggests, was also marked by conflict, kind of mirroring the professional battle.
It seems so. His relationship with Justine Wilson is described as turbulent. They argued furiously, particularly over Christian symbolism, the text notes.
Right.
And Justine noted his comments were sometimes like the things he told me his father said to him.
Oof, echoing the past.
Right. And then at their wedding, despite his brother Kimball apparently trying an intervention, Musk famously whispered to Justine during their first dance, I am the alpha in this relationship.
Wow. That's direct.
It reveals this deeply ingrained need for control, maybe stemming from those difficult childhood dynamics playing out even in his closest relationships.
And professionally at PayPal, He faced these intense internal battles again, even getting removed as CEO. How did he react to that, according to the book?
Well, Max Levchin apparently found Musk increasingly difficult to deal with, dismissing memos about fraud.
Yeah.
Yet, after the board voted to remove him, Musk responded, the text says, with a calm and grace that surprised those who watched the struggle.
Really? How did he frame it?
He said, the company was my baby, and like the mother in the Book of Solomon, I was willing to give it up so it could survive.
That's a surprising level of pragmatism, almost sacrifice.
Yeah. Prioritizing the company's survival over his own ego or control in that moment. It's quite a quote.
He even had a brush with death around this time, didn't he? Malaria.
Yes, a really serious one. He contracted falciparum malaria, the most dangerous form. The biography says he was only hours from death.
It's great.
He even took out a Keyman life insurance policy for $100 million for PayPal. Peter Thiel apparently joked it would have solved all their financial problems if he'd died.
Dark humor. What did Musk take away from it?
According to the text, his two stark lessons were, vacations will kill you.
Okay.
Also South Africa, that place is still trying to destroy me.
Wow. A very direct, almost fatalistic interpretation there. Reinforces that relentless work ethic.
And avoidance of downtime, yeah.
So, despite all these immense challenges, near-death experiences, he doesn't slow down. He sets his sights on Mars. Where did that audacious vision really come from, according to the biography?
It seems to stem from this profound belief he holds that life can't just be about solving problems day to day.
Need something bigger.
Exactly. It also has to be about pursuing great dreams, having inspiring things in the world. He saw making life multiplanetary as the next important step in human history, like on the scale of consciousness itself.
That's a huge vision.
It is. Max Levchin, who knew him well, apparently dryly observed, one of Elon's greatest skills is the ability to pass off his vision as a mandate from heaven.
Speaks to the power of his conviction, I guess.
Absolutely.
And the path to that vision, the book suggests, wasn't straightforward. He started with a more philanthropic idea.
He did, yeah. His initial thought was really about inspiring the public, maybe increasing NASA funding. First, he considered sending mice to Mars.
Ice?
Yeah, but worried it would become a tragicomic video. Then he shifted to a small greenhouse to send back photos of green plants growing on the red planet.
So trying to galvanize interest step by step.
Exactly. Public engagement, not immediate colonization.
But then these bizarre meetings in Moscow, the biography details, pushed him to think much, much bigger. What happened there?
Oh, this was a critical turning point, the text makes clear. A Russian official, apparently missing a front tooth, spat at them.
Spat them.
Yes, shouting that the rockets were never meant for capitalists to use it for going to Mars on a bullshit mission.
Ouch. That's insulting.
Extremely. Musk recalled, I was pretty mad, and when I get mad, I try to reframe the problem. That direct insult, that perceived injustice, it immediately prodded him towards privately building the rockets himself.
Turning frustration into an even bigger ambition.
And a self-reliant one, yeah.
He also applied this unique analytical approach to the challenge, didn't he?
Right.
Can you explain his first principles thinking and this idiot index the book mentions?
Right, he fundamentally employed first principles thinking, drilling down to the absolute basic physics of a problem.
How does that apply to rockets?
Instead of just accepting that rockets cost billions, he'd asked, okay, what are rockets actually made of? Raw materials, aluminum, carbon fiber, oxygen, etc. What do those actual materials cost on the market?
Breaking it right down.
Exactly. And this deconstruction, along with his idiot index, which the book describes as a calculation of how much more costly a finished product was than its basic materials, revealed massive inefficiencies in the industry.
So he saw potential for huge cost reductions.
Significant potential, yeah.
Yeah.
Just through efficient manufacturing, a truly disruptive approach to aerospace.
And he ended up as chief engineer at SpaceX, almost by default.
Pretty much, yeah. The text explains that after Mike Griffin declined the role and another candidate, Jim Cantrell, asked for too many guarantees, Musk just stepped into that highly technical role himself.
Taking on whatever responsibility was needed.
Speaks volumes about his drive and self-belief, really.
Okay, so while SpaceX is taking shape, he also embarks on Tesla. How did that begin, according to the biography? What was the initial vision?
Well, Martin Eberhard and Mark Tarpenning actually founded Tesla first in July 2003, named it after Nikola Tesla, inventor of the induction motor.
Right.
Eberhard's initial vision, the one that attracted Musk, was to make a sporty roadster that would absolutely change the way that people think about electric cars.
A compelling idea.
Definitely.
And once Musk got involved, it sounds like he quickly started pushing the boundaries, maybe sometimes with significant financial consequences.
That's what the text suggests. After seeing the first development mule, basically a prototype cobbled together from a Lotus Elise, which apparently bolted forward like a startled horse, Musk agreed to invest $9 million more, but his subsequent modifications and his insistence on rapid expansion quickly burned through the company's cash. He kept pushing Eberhard to hire more people.
So bold investment, but aggressive, maybe costly acceleration.
That seems to be the pattern the book lays out, yes.
And this financial pressure, combined with other frustrations, led to some classic Musk reactions, often intensely personal.
Yeah, the book gives some examples. When Mark Tarpenning, acting as CFO, told Musk they were running out of money, the text describes how Elon totally loses it.
Just loses it.
Apparently. There's also the detail of him getting totally insulted by a press release that didn't list him as one of Tesla's founders.
Oh, the founder dispute.
Right. He apparently said it was outrageous and demanded to talk with every major publication within reason.
Reveals that sensitivity to public perception needing credit.
Alongside a pretty volatile reaction to constraints, yeah.
His approach to manufacturing and design at Tesla. The biography makes it sound both brilliant and brutal. What was his management philosophy like?
He famously instilled this tolerance for risk and reality-bending willfulness, stating, quote, "If you were negative or thought something couldn't be done, you were not invited to the next meeting."
Cutthroat.
Pretty much. His algorithm, as the book calls it, for developing products included questioning all specifications, treating requirements basically as recommendations. Unless they were decreed by the laws of physics. Those were the only immutable ones.
A physics-first, uncompromising philosophy.
Pushing boundaries relentlessly, yeah.
And this intense approach extended directly to employees, sometimes with very harsh consequences, according to the anecdotes in the book.
Yes, the book portrays him as capable of being cold and rough. There's a story about a young manufacturing engineer, Gage Coffin.
What happened?
Musk apparently asked him, "Did you fucking do this?" regarding a robotic arm alignment issue. When Coffin was understandably flummoxed, Musk just called him an idiot and fired him.
Wow.
There's also that heartbreaking story about Lucas Hughes being reamed out for not knowing the cost of a steel part.
Right. But there was more to it.
Yeah, Gwynne Shotwell, the SpaceX executive, later revealed Hughes had just tragically lost his first child. Something Musk, despite his own similar experience with loss, was apparently unaware of in that moment.
Goodness. Paints a picture of a demanding leader often lacking empathy in the heat of the moment.
That's certainly how those incidents are presented in the text, yes.
It sounds like his professional life was just filled with drama, which seems to tie into how his closest relationships perceived him as well.
It does. Justine, his first wife, noted his lack of empathy, but she also conceded, the book quotes, that the strong will and emotional distance that makes him difficult as a husband may be reasons for his success in running a business.
Interesting perspective.
His brother Kimball described him simply as drama magnet, and even his later relationship with Amber Heard, the book mentions her saying, "Elon loves fire, and sometimes it burns him."
So these insights from people close to him offer this complex, multifaceted view. Personal intensity and professional drive are just linked.
Inextricably linked, it seems.
So we've seen space, we've seen cars. Where did he turn his focus next, according to the biography, and what was the motivation?
He became deeply concerned about artificial intelligence, specifically the danger of AI systems, running amok, maybe replacing humans.
The existential risk idea.
Exactly. This concern was apparently so profound, it actually ended his friendship with Google co-founder Larry Page.
Really?
Page apparently called him a speciest for favoring humans over potential AI. Musk's response, quoted in the text, was direct. "I fucking like humanity, dude." And this deep philosophical stance, this desire to ensure AI served humanity, led him to form OpenAI.
And how did this new focus on AI connect back to his other companies, like Tesla, or bleed to new ones?
Well, he quickly realized, the book explains, that massive amounts of real-world data were absolutely key for AI success.
Data?
Tesla, collecting millions of video frames daily from drivers, a gold mine. Later, Twitter, now X, processing 500 million posts daily, another huge trove of data.
Thanks, Ed.
And he also founded Neuralink, the idea there being to connect human brains directly to computers, maybe make bots an extension of the will of individuals?
Brain-computer interfaces.
Yeah. He even envisions Neuralink helping paralyzed people walk again, calling it boldy Jesus-level stuff.
Wow. It shows this convergent strategic thinking, doesn't it?
Mm.
All the ventures feeding into a broader vision.
An interconnected vision for humanity's future, yeah.
Then came the Twitter acquisition, which seemed to plunge him into a whole new level of, well, drama. How did he perceive that challenge, according to the book?
He referred to Twitter as a snake-infested swamp and a wilderness campaign. So clearly saw it as a massive undertaking.
Well, why do it?
He viewed it, the text says, as fulfilling his original vision for X.com and PayPal to be a global payments platform, a long-held ambition.
Ah, the everything app.
Right. And he described the company needing a fire-breathing dragon as CEO, not a really nice guy, showcasing his belief that only a ruthless, direct approach could fix it.
And the content moderation part became a massive flashpoint, didn't it? His views seemed to evolve rapidly once he was in charge.
Oh, hugely. He initially waved the banner of free speech, almost absolutely. But the biography details how he quickly learned the practical complexities, disinformation, crypto scams, hate speech.
The messy reality.
Exactly. And while he proposed a diverse content moderation council, he also got involved in some really controversial actions. Like linking to a right-wing conspiracy theory about Paul Pelosi and publicly attacking Yoel Roth, one of Twitter's moderation leaders, using screenshots from Roth's dissertation to imply Roth, is arguing in favor of children being able to access adult internet services.
Yeah, that caused a huge backlash. Highlights the difficulty of upholding absolute free speech ideals in practice.
Especially for someone with absolutist tendencies facing that complex digital environment.
It sounds like this entire period, particularly with Twitter, was one of intense personal and professional strain. What does the biography say about the toll it took?
A tremendous toll, clearly. The text notes he experienced psychological tailspin, gaining and losing weight, feeling not super okay, TBH, burning the candle at both ends with a flamethrower.
Just running himself into the ground?
He confessed, the book says, to having emotions buried under so much layers of concrete and described himself as basically wired for war.
Wow. A vivid picture of a man pushed to his absolute limits, constantly in conflict mode.
Seems that way.
So we've journeyed through these complexities of Elon Musk's life and career, haven't we? From that violent South African childhood, the battles with his father, right through to this relentless pursuit of audacious goals, space, EVs, AI, social media.
Yeah, he really emerges from the text as this individual defined by an incredible, almost unbelievable tolerance for risk, an unwavering belief in the first principles thinking, and a willingness to push people and himself to what seem like impossible limits.
The sources definitely show a figure who is often difficult, sometimes pretty controversial.
Undeniably, but also undeniably driven by this singular, ambitious vision for humanity's future, whatever you think of the methods.
And his story, as it's presented in this biography, it really highlights that idea that some great innovators are these risk-seeking man-children who resist potty training, to use the book's phrasing.
Yeah, it puts it bluntly.
They can be reckless, cringeworthy, sometimes even toxic. But then the text itself asks this really direct question. Could you get the rockets to orbit or the transition to electric vehicles without accepting all aspects of him, hinged and unhinged?
And that leaves us, and you listening, with a really important question to ponder, doesn't it? In our world, with its increasing complexity and huge global challenges, what kind of leaders are actually needed to drive that kind of epoch-making change?
And, maybe crucially, at what personal and societal cost do their methods come?
Something to think about.
Definitely. We hope this deep dive has given you a clearer picture of what makes Elon Musk tick based on this biography, offering you those aha moments and save you quite a few hours of reading.